Over the years, we'd see pictures of people up north shoveling snow and we'd laugh. We'd be down in the Keys in the pool or out fishing. But now, maybe the last laugh's on us. Jimmy Johnson, Super Bowl winning coach and longtime resident of the Florida Keys, to me on Tuesday. Johnson has hosted Bill Belichick, Troy Aikman and other NFL bigwigs on his 6-acre compound in Isla Mirada, on the southern side of the Florida Keys, 125 miles from Cuba. They've stayed in his guest house. They've fished with him on one of his 2 boats. Johnson has sailed and fished as far south as the ocean waters shared by Cuba and the United States. Sometimes, he fishes alone. He and wife Rhonda have a fairly idyllic existence. He seldom leaves the Keys, weekly in the fall for his Fox studio show in Los Angeles, and other times if someone pays him to speak. Irma changed all that. The driveway to Jimmy Johnson's Florida home was flooded with debris in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. Courtesy of Jimmy Johnson. Getty Images. Johnson sounded hopeful and defiant when I spoke to him Sunday night about his home of more than 20 years in the Keys, which had been battered for much of the day while he was in Los Angeles doing TV. "We're going to get some damage, no question about it," Johnson said from Los Angeles. "But it's my home. It's the most beautiful place in the world. I'll never leave." Tuesday. Johnson sounded beaten down when I spoke to him, still adjusting to the reports and the texted photos of his place. There was 2 feet of ocean sand in his pool with a tiki bar on his property. His dock, shredded. His long driveway, covered with what appeared to be seaweed, tree residue and at least 1 power pole sheared somehow by the roof of his tiki hut. There had been 18 inches of water that flowed onto the first floor of his home. Johnson was seeing the effects of the storm through the texted pictures. "Looks like the place has been napalmed," Johnson said, his voice sounding somewhat similar to the post-games in his first season in Dallas, the 115-lost season of 1989. "I saw the pictures and I about threw up. I spent 30 years building up that property to exactly the way we wanted it, and to see it now, it hurts. But I guess you look at it and think, I'm fortunate, at least because I can afford to build it back up. There's no question Johnson will stay and rebuild." He said it Sunday, and he repeated it Tuesday. An aerial view of Jimmy Johnson's property in Isla Mirada before Hurricane Irma hit the Florida Keys. Courtesy of Jimmy Johnson. "Oh, well, stay. It's the place I've been happiest," Johnson said. "It's where I'll die," said Johnson. "It's the lifestyle. There's no stress." Jimmy Buffett sang about it, Margaritaville. The good life, with no stress. Now we do have some stress. Johnson is hoping to get back to see his place Wednesday and begin the process of rebuilding. He says you have to have been to the Keys, or know people from there, to understand the devotion to the place, and to understand why the vast majority of residents there won't leave. Johnson's a transplant from Texas, but he made it clear in 2 separate conversations he's not leaving, and his place will be back in all its glory. Now for your email. Bad officiating for the Seahawks. As a lifetime Seahawks fan, I find it hard to accept the officiating. Although I will admit with our offensive line the Hawks would have still lost. I also recognize that the Hawks have benefited from some very poor calls over the years. Fail Mary. However, to kick out a guy Seattle cornerback Jeremy Lane for a phantom punch without even conferring with the other officials, as well as the borderline at best block in the back call, is the poorest performance on one play that I have seen in a long time. My question to you: are these officials punished for their performance? Brad, Germany. Thanks for writing from Europe, Brad. Yes, the officials who miss calls in a game regardless of the magnitude get sanctioned by a lower grade for the game. Those grades, collectively, determine playoff assignments and, if there are enough downgrades at the end of the season, could get an official replaced after the season. The Lane ejection was ridiculous. He never punched him, unless it occurred away from the play when the cameras didn't catch it. The non-pass interference call in the end zone on the mug Jimmy Graham was another miss. There are times when officials want to let the players play, and I get that, and I mostly support that. But that non-call was egregious. Another reason for the ratings drop. Something to ponder regarding the drop in NFL ratings. While I believe it may be sexier as well as possibly accurate to link it to labor relations, concussions, etc., I wonder about the impact of folks cutting the cord. We cut our cable DirecTV to be accurate earlier this year, and by doing so we did away with the NFL package after 18 years. I've decided wasting entire Sundays because I feel obligated based on spending is not how I wanted to close out my life. I suspect that once some non-traditional content carriers show the NFL, the rating will continue to drop much like other traditional TV shows carried by legacy content providers. Joe, we've heard the cord-cutting reason. We're in the process of looking into the ratings decline at the MMQB, and that angle will be investigated. The game is too old. Oh, you think that part of the reason that there is a ratings issue with the NFL is that they have people like Rex Ryan calling a game and making references to Merlin Olsen? Anyone under 30 wouldn't even know him as an actor or a football player. I think this is the main reason that younger viewers are choosing something else. It's not the game itself, it is the old feel of how it is presented. Mark H. Very interesting. Memo to whoever's reading this in the league office: forward this letter to NFL EVP Media Brian Rolap, who is noodling right now about the ratings. Georgios Day, thanks for the shout-out for Oakland's sudden starting kicker, Giorgio Tavecchio. One little piece of info you left out about his game, as I understand it, he is the first kicker in NFL history to hit 2 50-yard field goals in a debut. Although he didn't have the best preseason this year, I've been surprised when, after the inevitable camp cut, some other team didn't scoop him up. RC Millen's own cool thing about Tavecchio's second 52-yard field goal: it went as close as a kick could go to straight down the middle, and it would have been good from 68. Pickle Juice: Andy Reid is a long-time believer in the power of pickle juice. Remember the first week of the 2000 season, Eagles at Cowboys, and the field temperature was around 120 degrees. The Eagles won 4,114, ushering in a new era in the NFC East. After the game, all the talk was about how the Eagles were drinking pickle juice on the sidelines to stay hydrated. The Eagles were the younger team on the verge of something special, so they probably win anyway, but the pickle juice is fondly remembered in Philadelphia for helping our team beat the hated Cowboys. Joe, Phoenixville, Pa. Give an assist to the trainer at the time in Philadelphia and the trainer now in Kansas City, Rick Burkholder. Nothing like that gets done without Burkholder's approval. He's one of the best trainers in the league. Resting heart rate: your note about Tom Coughlin having a resting heart rate of 42. The most impressive individual with regard to resting heart rate may be Miguel Indurain. His resting pulse rate was as low as 28 BPM, and legend had it that he reached that state within a short time after finishing a stage of the Tour de France. He was asked why he didn't use the handlebars made common by Greg LeMond, and his reply was that it constricted his cardiovascular system. According to Wikipedia, his blood takes 7 liters of oxygen around his body per minute, cardiac output of 50 liters per minute, and lung capacity of 7.8 liters. Way above the average person, substantially better than the average cyclist. Ed F., Dayton, Ohio. You learn all kinds of stuff in the mailbag. Thanks, Ed. We all ignored the CHIEFSA thought about the NFL opening night ratings decline. Do you think the build-up of the Patriots was so much this offseason that no one thought the Chiefs had much of a chance and ignored this game? One was really happy to see so many unpredictable scores this first weekend. It makes the league exciting week to week. Paulie could be Paul. But I've been conditioned to think that the first game of the season is always boffo ratings because people have been waiting for football to return, and this year it was even more anticipated because it was Tom Brady's first game in his 40s, and Brady is such a ratings magnet. Guess I was wrong. All's well that ends. I do believe the protests before the game are having an impact on the number of viewers watching, but I think eventually true fans will come back. However, I believe the poor behavior of the players has an even bigger impact. My take on Ezekiel Elliott: while a 6-game ban seems light if he is guilty, at this point a 4-game ban would still send a message and put this behind us. I think the lengthy, litigious delays in Bountygate, Deflategate and now the Elliott cases has an even bigger impact in fans losing interest. The lack of trust between the NFLPA and the Commissioner's office has created a poisonous atmosphere that needs to be addressed immediately. Tear up the contract if you must, but bring in a respected judge to dole out the punishment with a review board made of arbitrators that both the owners and union trust. People are sick of these issues dragging out. Steve E., Royal Oak, Mitch. Couldn't have written it better myself, Steve. Thank you. Goff was outstanding. Peter, you've been piling on Jared Goff for some time. Saying his arm was below average last year was ludicrous. Ask anyone in the know. Yes, he had a lousy year, but since when is 21 for 29 for 306 yards and a touchdown just competent? Ask the Niners, Jets, Giants, etc. from last week about quarterback competence. Let's give the kid a little break. Albeit it's only one game, he was outstanding. Gary, Long Island. I'm just basing my feelings on golf based on what I've seen, and it hasn't been much. Having said that, he was highly impressive in week 1, and has clearly been helped by Sean McVay's tutelage. Steely Dan. Love what really made your column awesome this week was the incredible tale of how Steely Dan influenced your life. On the day Walter Becker died, I listened to their greatest hits CD for the 2-hour drive to visit my daughter in Madison, WISC. When I arrived and was waiting for her, I checked Twitter and saw the news of Walter's death. I shared the moment with my daughter, who immediately insisted we listen to Peg together. She knows all the nuances of the song, and we shared that together, a late 50-something, with his 20-year-old daughter. The power of music crosses generations. Davith, thanks for sharing. Dave. I have listened to my old school 5 times writing this column. Question or comment, email us at talkback@themenqb.com.